What does it take for a movie or TV show to stand out for you from the endless stream of titles that are released every single day? Because, they're expensive to make. And with the production budget you see on Wikipedia, the cut movie theaters take when there's a theatrical release, and the hidden marketing costs, movies oftentimes need to make 2 to 2.5 times their budget to even turn a profit. But those marketing campaigns often cost so much because that's how they try to get your attention. So I'm going to rank a bunch of the Materialists I just made up. So to start off strong, let me take you back to 1960, where Alfred Hitchcock's horror classic Psycho made waves, becoming the second highest grossing film of the year, grossing about $50 million on a production budget of $806,947. Regarded as one of the most influential films of all time, and had a marketing campaign that helped usher in a cinematic practice we still follow today. So what was it? A no late admission policy, where Hitchcock absolutely insisted that people had to see the movie from the beginning, because at this time, the common practice was that cinemagoers would enter a movie whenever they wanted, usually to see a specific movie star, because at this time, movies would play on a continuous loop for the entire day. Hitchcock wasn't the first to do this, and took inspiration from a French film, Les Diaboliques, that utilized the same marketing gimmick 5 years earlier. See, the thing is, the film had so many twists and turns, like the famous shower scene where the lead actress of the film is killed not even midway through, and so Hitchcock didn't want people who only came to see her to feel cheated. In addition, Hitchcock forbade the stars of the film to do routine interviews to promote it, out of fear that they would spoil it.
Homecoming 2 and 3?
Yeah, there'll be Spider-Man 2 and 3. It won't be Homecoming 2 and 3. Yeah.
Almost a scoop, because we knew about the second one, but not the third one.
Yeah, well now you know. Sorry, Marvel. Whoops.
While many theatre owners were initially opposed to Hitchcock's idea, feeling that they would lose business, they later found that the long lines the designated showing times made created a sense of anticipation and exclusivity that led to the film not only becoming a huge success, but entirely changed the way films are experienced in the theatre. Genius.
I was accused of calling actors cattle, and I said that I would never say such an unfeeling, rude thing about actors at all. What I probably said was that all actors should be treated like cattle.
For Past Lives director Celine Song's second movie, Materialists, a rom-com drama about a matchmaker who finds partners for people based on their very specific and often superficial, hence the title, preferences, like wealth and weight, finding herself in her own love triangle between a seemingly perfect match and her imperfect ex. A very interesting marketing campaign was launched, alongside the usual trailers and press tours. To imitate the same way Dakota Johnson's matchmaker character would find people with her client's desired traits, by creating a website where men could input their age, height, weight, income, whether they have hair or not, if they rent or own their home, and more. Essentially the kind of info you'd put on a dating profile, to figure out if they were worth investing in, like on the New York Stock Exchange. Quite the collab.
This, that, I couldn't believe how these guys talk to each other.
At the cinemas, A24 also included height measuring boards so women could check if their dates were really 6 feet tall. Some people refer to this marketing campaign as male rage bait, which is also quite funny. Also, it's pretty hilarious how everyone has clocked how Celine and her husband Justin Koritskis, the writer of Challenges and Queer, are obsessed with love triangle narratives. Materialists ended up becoming a commercial success though, grossing $103.5 million against a $20 million production budget. You've definitely got my attention. Misleading advertising sucks in any industry, and when it comes to film, it can be pretty tricky, especially with trailers. You want audiences to go and see a film, and show them just enough that they're interested, but not too much that they've got a pretty good idea of how the story's going to go. Well, not these days though. For example, a lady from Michigan sued the distributor of the critically acclaimed thriller Drive with Ryan Gosling, and the movie theater where she saw it, for false advertising, because she was under the impression that it was going to be a Fast and Furious style action flick, and that it has very little driving. There's the kind of advertising that's really bad due to things like incompetence, like a bad name that tells you nothing about the story. If I tell you I'm gonna go watch John Carter at the cinema next week, what do you think I'm gonna see? A courtroom drama about a weary lawyer a la Erin Brockovich? Maybe a coming-of-age movie about a misunderstood high schooler who's actually a genius and secretly developing a cure for a terminal illness in the ultimate demonstration of human altruism in spite of his isolation. How about a movie about an American Civil War veteran who's transported to Mars, discovers he has superhuman abilities, and must mediate unrest between the warring kingdoms of Basu? If you picked B because it was too oddly specific and detailed, you'd be wrong, because it's C. But the film bombed heavily because of an ill-advised marketing campaign, losing an estimated $149 to $265 million. Musicals are also not doing too great nowadays. After Steven Spielberg's brilliant West Side Story remake failed at the box office, Mean Girls even went as far as to hide the fact that it was a musical in its trailers, leading people to be surprised when they were actually already in the cinema watching it. But few of these movies pull the rug out from under an audience as much as Kangaroo Jack. Starting off as a raunchy R-rated crime comedy called Down and Under, the film's producers were unhappy with the assembly cut, and even more so with the paltry response in early test screenings. However, positive reactions to the kangaroo scene in the film, alongside Disney's misleading marketing campaign for its movie Snow Dogs, where the trailer shows the dogs talking, only for it to be a dream sequence in the movie, and the dogs don't actually talk at all, gave the producers an idea best summed up by this YouTube comment. So a mob movie sucks, the test audience hated it, we're in deep right now, and we desperately need to make sure this movie makes any money whatsoever. Hey, the test audience like the scenes of the kangaroo. Let's add an extra scene with a CGI rapping kangaroo in a dream sequence, edit down the movie to pass for a PG rating, and advertise it as a kids movie about a talking kangaroo. Great job, guys.
Nice.
How'd you know red was my favourite colour?
You can talk.
And I can sing.
I said it.
Oh, by the way, this is an award-winning movie. Did you hear something? Directed by Uncut Gems and Good Time co-director Josh Safdie, and starring Timothée Chalamet, Marty Supreme is a fictional tale about a ping pong player obsessed with greatness. It's kind of the ping pong version of Whiplash, honestly.
Were you rushing or were you dragging?
To match the character's obsessive personality, the marketing campaign of this film pulled out all the stops, from collaborations with all sorts of content creators
Okay, received.
to highly coveted merchandise drops of a branded designer jacket that many celebrities known as the GOATs of various fields were sent and seen wearing, from people like Lamine Yamal to Bill Nye. They even managed to get Frank Ocean out of hiding, a giant orange blimp that flew across the US, funding giant ping pong heads being made for his entourage to wear, a corroded orange becoming the signature color on the press tour, advertising on the Las Vegas Sphere, a meta-stage Zoom call about the marketing written and directed by Chalamet, and a lot more.
I'm not even speaking in the context of where my career's at and amazing movie after amazing movie after amazing movie, but more Josh Safdie and where he's at, and that we're in service to Josh Safdie, because when I think heaven knows what, I think SWAT. When I think Good Time, which obviously came out after, Robert Pattinson, SWAT.
Funnily enough, a joke started spreading that the identity of a rising masked UK rapper named Esdeekid was secretly Timothée, given his rap background, and Timothée capitalized on this during the press tour, refusing to definitively answer questions about whether or not he was SD, saying that it was all to be
Revealed in due time.
only for a remix of Esdeekid's hit track 4 Raws to drop with a music video and a new verse from Timothée himself. Couldn't have lined up any better.
Getting the cream, I'm living on theme, I'm doing my thing, it's Marty Supreme, it's Marty Supreme, it's Marty Supreme.
And all of this definitely worked out for them, because although it's A24's most expensive film to date, it's also A24's
I think one of the best marketing jobs of any film I've ever seen.
For the acclaimed sci-fi thriller show Severance's highly anticipated second season, Apple staged a real-life Lumen workday at New York's Grand Central Terminal, where all of the principal actors from the show went about their day in the macro data and refinement department, inside a glass-encased cubicle in front of onlookers.
What the hell? What the hell? What the helly? What the helly?
What the hell?
It's basically live theater, or a kind of performance art, where the eerie vibe would definitely encourage people who weren't familiar with the show to look further into it, leading the show to become the most watched show in the history of Apple TV. I know I'm not the first person to declare it's one of my favorite shows, so yes, I'm biased, but it's absolutely brilliant. And this was a really effective one, so this one's definitely getting a genius from me.
We were in there for 3 hours.
Doing macro data refinement?
Yes, we were just in there working, and none of us peed at all for 3 hours.
Taking a page out of the Blair Witch Project's book and going with a more cynical angle, the Casey Affleck-directed Joaquin Phoenix mockumentary is the result of Phoenix's supposed amazement that people actually believe reality shows aren't scripted. As a result, he and his friend and brother-in-law at the time, actor Casey Affleck, decided to make a movie exploring celebrity and the relationship between the media and the consumers and the celebrities themselves. The premise is simple. Joaquin says that he's retiring from acting in order to focus on pursuing a rap career before things go downhill.
Tell me why you wanted to do this. I mean, why'd you want to do hip hop?
Cause
You think it's fucking funny?
You're gonna hear about my party. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we want to have a good time.
To promote the movie, they played the concept as reality for as long as possible, with Joaquin doing an infamous interview in character with Dave Letterman that got a lot of press coverage, with people wondering what the heck happened to him.
I watched that whole interview and I said to myself, Joaquin Phoenix is a fucking genius. That was like the greatest press appearance I've ever seen in my life. 10 minutes on Letterman, he was on every publication the next day. He was in USA Today. Look how crazy it is. Everyone was talking about it. He was a fucking nut. He must have been high or something. Joaquin was probably reading that shit like...
While they did manage to generate a lot of controversy, it didn't necessarily translate to interest in the film. But since the fact that it was fake wasn't revealed until after it was released, critics and the public at large couldn't decide if it was a documentary or a kind of performance art. I really like how this reviewer from IndieWire says, if Phoenix is acting in some of these scenes, I wrote at the time, he is giving one of the greatest and most fearless performances of all time. And yeah, this is definitely true and very interesting to witness. You know, one of the best actors of his generation pulling an elaborate multi-year prank about the superficiality and silliness of celebrity and the media culture that feeds off of it. I mean, just look how uncomfortable he is at the Oscars. Probably the funniest thing about this, though, is that while it harmed his career, the movie he made directly after this was the critically acclaimed drama The Master with Paul Thomas Anderson, which, I mean, is just a goated movie with a goated performance. So, I mean, many people, including Phoenix himself, argue that wouldn't have been what it was without the experience he had while filming I'm Still Here. So, I guess there's that. Yeah, that's getting lost in the streaming pile.
For the new Stephen King adaptation, The Long Walk, not to be confused with the other 2025 Stephen King movie, The Running Man, to match the movement theme.
I swear there'll be a movie of every Stephen King story at some point. To mirror the dystopian premise of teenagers being forced to walk non-stop under the threat of execution until there's only one of them left standing, it was transformed into an immersive viewing experience by the distributors Lionsgate, replacing the theater seats with treadmills, where audience members had to maintain a walking pace of at least 4.8 kilometers per hour for the entire film, an hour and 48 minutes, or else they'd be kicked out. There were also special biometric screenings, where the audience had their vital signs monitored while watching the movie, in true horror movie fashion.
The film managed to break even, with the producer Roy Lee noting that it made $65 million on a $20 million budget, so it didn't lose money. It didn't blow up, but I feel like it's going to be similar to the way that The Shawshank Redemption is considered now. The Long Walk is in a decade or so going to be considered a classic.
This one's genius. The Why So Serious campaign was designed as an alternate reality game that played out over 15 months leading up to the release of The Dark Knight, utilizing almost every medium possible, from the internet to real-world events to phones, emails, and video, fully immersing the audience and recruiting them to become real citizens of Gotham City. Over 11 million unique participants in over 75 countries became the Joker's henchmen, campaigned for fictional Harvey Dent to get elected as district attorney, and gathered to show their support for Batman. From calling phone numbers written in the sky, to tracking GPS coordinates to discover Joker-planted mobile phones hidden inside birthday cakes, to supporting Harvey Dent's campaign through a dedicated website by entering in your email, only for each one to remove pixels from the homepage, and then 97,000 emails later, the first look image of the Joker was revealed. From completing scavenger hunt games and being rewarded with exclusive Jokerized trailer footage and even scenes from the film, the Why So Serious campaign went all out and is widely considered as probably the best movie marketing campaign of all time, and wow did it pay off. The film had the biggest opening of all time until 2000, had all pre-booking shows sold out, had the most advanced booking ticket sales of all time until 2008, and was the highest grossing movie of the year with a total bag of just over $1 billion. This one's genius. A found-footage superhero thriller film by Josh Trank in his directorial debut, Chronicle is a story about 3 high school seniors who bond after gaining telekinetic powers from an unknown object and the different paths their lives take. You know, a regular Tuesday. Despite having a small $15 million budget, the marketing campaign was extremely clever, bringing the awe-inspiring energy of 3 friends flying over the New York City skyline into reality. Human-shaped remote-controlled aircraft were flown over the city, generating interest from many onlookers who didn't know the stunt was for a film until 20th Century Fox claimed the stunt as their own doing. The film ended up being a massive success, grossing $126 million. You've definitely got my attention. Home Alone director Chris Columbus's high school teen rom-com follows the cliched plot of a nerdy valedictorian declaring his love for the most popular girl in the school during his speech and then trying to win her affection. In a strange guerrilla advertising stunt meant to promote the movie to its target audience directly, 20th Century Fox hired a firm to find and pay a real high school valedictorian $1,800 to reenact the plot. They attended the graduation ceremony and intentionally recorded the speech in low quality to make it look real. But while Jill would profess her love for a fellow student and claim that the trailer for this movie, quote, inspired her to do the same, officials of the school, Los Angeles' Alexander Hamilton High, were reportedly outraged that a studio basically inserted a paid ad into a graduation ceremony. In an interview, admitted to not even watching the movie and said she didn't really know what she was thinking when she accepted the offer, calling herself a big introvert. The video garnered less than 2,000 views on YouTube more than a month after it was posted, and then the movie flopped hard at the box office, taking in a total of $16.4 million against a production budget of $18 million. You can't even find the graduation speech online anymore. Yikes. Huh? Did you hear something? Before his MCU introduction, Ant-Man had a reputation as one of the stranger characters in Marvel's repertoire. You know, next to classics like Swarm, a villain whose body is made of bees, or Dazzler, who can transform sound vibrations into light and energy beams, and of course, who can forget Hindsight Lad, who, as his great name suggests, can learn from his past mistakes with his keen sense of hindsight. Yeah, that's real, by the way. Well, Ant-Man's superpower is his ability to transform in size while maintaining his strength, even able to shrink to sub-microscopic size, which allows him to enter subatomic universes. For the marketing campaign, Marvel played with this ability, first releasing an ant-sized teaser trailer 4 days before the human-sized one came out. And as funny as this was, it actually didn't go over too well, garnering a 35% dislike ratio. But after that, everyone was in agreement that the advertising campaign was a stroke of genius, as Marvel placed ant-sized billboards around ordinary locations you wouldn't expect billboards to be, like parks, the sidewalk, gardens, and all over the place, along with human-sized billboards too. In the UK, the artist Willard Wigan, who holds the Guinness World Record for the smallest piece of art made by hand, a sculpture of a human fetus inside a hollowed-out section of his own beard stubble, breaking his own record to achieve this, was commissioned by Disney to create and exhibit miniature Ant-Man-inspired artwork that could only be viewed with microscopes. He even made a sculpture of Ant-Man that can fit in the eye of a needle. To top it off though, a day before the release, Marvel hid 100 ant-sized IMAX tickets around London, Manchester and Birmingham that allowed the finders to see the film in cinemas for free. I also just want to take a moment to appreciate these posters. Genius. following the wildly successful films The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs, which collectively grossed over $1.2 billion, led to him becoming one of the youngest Best Director Oscar nominees of the time, and earned him the reputation of being the next Spielberg. His next film, The Village, was highly anticipated. In order to promote it, a documentary titled The Buried Secret of M. Night Shyamalan was released and purported some pretty outlandish things, like the claim that M. Night attended the prestigious Ravenhill Academy for Gifted Children, a school that doesn't exist, and that the reason for his mystical work resonating with so many people is a result of him drowning and dying for 30 minutes, forever leaving him with supernatural abilities and a connection to the spirit realm, which he would pull from for his movies. You know, with hired actors to play obsessed fans, interviews with celebrities, and faked fantasy scenarios, Shyamalan told the press that he was unhappy with the film and that it contained a secret that he wanted to stay private, to generate media attention. But it wasn't long until the entire thing was exposed as a hoax. Yeah, that's getting lost in the streaming pile. If you search up literally any video or article about movie marketing from the last 24 years, this movie marketing campaign will probably be on there for good reason. Widely considered the first movie to utilize, quote, viral marketing before it was even a thing, The Blair Witch Project is a found footage horror film that centers on 3 filmmaking students who hike into the Black Hills near Burkittsville, Maryland, to film a documentary about a local myth known as the Blair Witch, but go missing. The film purports to be the found footage of their escapade, discovered a year after their disappearance. With the characters in the film being fictionalized versions of the actors portraying them, and therefore using the same names, the marketing campaign focused on portraying the film as real, even going as far as listing the actors as missing, presumed dead, featuring fake police reports, news-style interviews, and distributing flyers at film festivals it would screen at, asking viewers to come forward with any information about the so-called missing students. The techniques the directors used to elicit the kind of natural performances the film has deserve their own video, but to briefly touch on it, they wrote a 35-page screenplay with no dialogue. All of it was improvised. Some of the townspeople interviewed in the movie weren't actors, and some were, but the cast had no idea regardless. The actors were given individual instructions to assist the improvisation of the action throughout the day, and they were given clues as to what their next location was through messages hidden in 35mm film cans that they had to find with GPS. Talk about method acting. And this was based on the producer's military training. Finally, the film's website features mock testimonials from actors portraying police officers and investigators, discussing their supposed casework, alongside photographs of the cast members, which makes everything seem even more legitimate. In 2 months, the website had received over 160 million visits, and the campaign was a huge success, because the film ended up being one of the biggest independent films of all time, revitalizing the horror and found footage genres, earning an astounding $248.6 million from an estimated final budget of between $500,000 and $750,000. Genius. So for $1 Million Mystery, I know, I'd never heard of this movie before my research too, is a loose remake of the 1963 comedy It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, where a dying man informs a group of motorists that he has $350,000 buried in a state park somewhere, and upon failing to figure out how to split the money, it becomes a game of first person there takes it all. So in this version, patrons at a middle-of-nowhere diner witness a man, played by an actor who is also the spokesperson of the company that sponsored the movie, wanted for stealing a large sum of money, dropping dead of a heart attack. But before he dies, he explains that there are 4 locations in which he's hidden $1 million each, and so, with the clues that they have, they go off on an adventure to find the money first. The interesting thing about this film is the fact that it was sponsored by a company that makes trash bags. I'm not going to say what company it is because they're not paying me, and is basically a feature-length ad. As you can see on the film's poster, the marketing campaign for this film was pretty clever, because at the end of the movie, $3 of the $4 million is destroyed and lost by the clumsy characters, but the last $1 million is still missing, and moviegoers were invited to guess the location of the hidden cash, using clues from inside the film. Thousands of contestants were able to guess the correct answer, the bridge of the nose of the Statue of Liberty. So in a random draw, a lucky 14-year-old won the $1 million prize. Ironically though, the movie itself was a disaster for the studio and failed to make even $1 million back, grossing only $989,033 against a $10 million budget. Well, you've got my attention. When this highly anticipated follow-up to the most successful original horror film of 2022 released a preview in the form of its first 7 minutes online, you can imagine fans of the first film were quick to... Wait, what? No, seriously. Using the front-facing camera on whatever device you use to access the website, you would have to smile the whole way through the preview, or risk the clip pausing and turning to black with a message that says, "Keep smiling." Also, some people found out you could just hold up a photo of somebody smiling and that would work too, in case you were looking to keep your cheeks from aching. It's funny too, because if you were to watch the clip, which features some pretty bloody violence, anywhere where people could see you smiling with glee at it, that would be pretty hilarious. But some people understandably had privacy concerns, but Paramount claimed the website wouldn't save any data. Who knows? But in addition to this, since Smile 2 follows a pop star, at the MTV VMAs, after a performance, when the camera panned to the crowd, standing among them in attendance was a woman standing dead still with a creepy grin on her face. This viral marketing stunt follows in the footsteps of what they did for the first Smile, where they had models at Major League Baseball games staring directly into the camera with that same creepy grin, leading to the film grossing $217 million against a budget of $17 million. Smile 2 was also a big success, grossing $138.1 million against a budget of $28 million. I wonder what Smile 3's marketing is going to look like. You've got my attention. So, that's movie marketing for you. It's an art form in and of itself, I guess. Anyway, let me know what your tier list looks like. I bet it probably has less geniuses, I think. Let me know in the comments.